I want to welcome everyone to Shout, Outdoor Lifestyle Magazine. And in this video episode, I'm speaking with Ben Cox, the head of the household of Ben and Hannah Cox and family. And we're going to talk about families getting outdoors. So enough of my introduction. Ben, welcome to Shout Outdoor Lifestyle Magazine.
Oh, thank you for having me.
So tell me, how did you get started in having such an interest in the outdoor lifestyle?
Well, it probably started just where I grew up. It was kind of out in the middle of nowhere, just woods and some farmland and creeks and stuff all around. And so pretty much, that's what we were always doing outside, running around playing, and just kind of grew up doing it. So.
And where was that exactly?
That's back in Indiana, Freedom, Indiana. Nobody knows of that. It's near Bloomington, though, about 30 minutes from Bloomington. Some people know that. So
you're a Midwest guy, and you get 4 seasons for the most part. What was your favorite season?
Usually the fall. That was always the best because that was, changing is always nice, but it cooled off. And hunting season, that was a big part of it. That's always nice. But good camping weather and just nice time to be outside, not too hot, not humid. And so.
Nice. And so as a boy, then you were experiencing that. Can you maybe harken back to one of those boyhood memories of being outdoors? And I don't know, maybe it was you saw a frog that just looked at you a certain way, or maybe you were out camping and you were looking up at the stars, something. What was the moment where you were like, wow, this is life?
Man, there's a lot of them. Just always out there. One particular memory that stands out though would probably be I don't know, I was maybe 11 or 12 over on the pond fishing, standing on the dam, standing there fishing, didn't have a shirt on and was just standing there. The sun was setting. I turned around and looked at it, and it was just kind of, right at the tops of the trees when all the colors are coming out, and just that kind of perfect sunset, but still had enough warmth. It was, in the summer. So, nice and warm, and just standing there, and it was just, standing out there. The wind was blowing a little bit, and kind of thought, how could it get much better than this? Just out in the sun and in nature and just enjoying it. So.
Did you ever have any times during that time that you talked with God some way or another?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, it's always, I don't know if it's ever like I'm going to stop and pray sort of thing. It's just kind of walking around and looking at the, nature and just the way things work and the way it all is. And it just kind of is reaffirming, like, that how does this work just by chance? Yeah, sort of thing. And as you're walking around, you just kind of see things and experience them, and just, I don't know, almost have a feeling of just knowing, like, this feels right. This feels like this is how it's supposed to be. And it's, calculated, and you just kind of walk around and experience it, I guess would be the way to put it. So
yeah, absolutely. So beyond your early childhood years, you went to Alaska to do some college studies. Talk about that time in your life.
So that was a lot of fun, up in Anchorage. Obviously when school starts is, in September. So we had just a little bit of warm weather, and then, it starts to cool off. So still got to see a lot of stuff, but you definitely deal with quite a bit of snow when you're up there.
Were there ever any starkly different experiences of being in that snow and remoteness?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely. One of the biggest changes, down here, people are used to seeing deer and stuff walking around there. And up there, they have the same thing, but it's gigantic moose that are the size of your car. So that's definitely a little different. And then getting to see the northern lights, that's probably one of the biggest things. You could go out of it pretty much any night that was cold. They were out quite a bit, and some nights obviously better than others, but that was definitely one of the coolest things of being up there, is just getting out. I remember a particular one evening going with a couple friends, and we drove out of town because campus was right on the edge of like town and then wilderness. And we drove just out of town a little, a couple miles, but you were out in the middle of nowhere then, and up to the top of a mountain, and watched the northern lights. You could see different colors from each direction you look. There's 3 different colors going on depending on where you were looking. So that was really cool. And then when I was done with school up there for the year, once it let out for the year, I actually got to work at a remote hunting and fishing lodge. Went out there and worked for, oh, I forget, it was 6 weeks or something like that, and helped restore their charter boat and all of that. But that was a fly in or boat in only. There's no roads. That was I think it was 150 miles from pretty much any city or anything. There was a little village there of about 40 native people, and that was about it. So that was definitely a different experience. Kind of, there was just nothing around.
But you mentioned that the Northern Lights, the Aurora Borealis, is something that you enjoyed, and I'll use that as a transition to simply say that I know you and Hannah's have 4 children, one of those being Aurora. Go ahead and just share not only their names and what makes those unique to your Alaska experience, but then give us a little outdoor profile for each. Because I think a lot of times people are concerned, gee, maybe I've got one child that's really into outdoors and another one that isn't. And yet you've been able to have to where all 4 of your children enjoy getting outdoors, even though each has a uniquely different interest.
Okay. So I guess I'll start with Kodiak. He's our oldest. And we got his name we were driving back to Indiana, actually, from Virginia on a vacation when Hannah was pregnant with him, and we had forgot the baby name book. But we had an atlas. And so she ended up just kind of looking through it, just, messing around, and started looking at Alaska and came across Kodiak. And we thought that was kind of a cool name. And that ended up being the final name we came up with. And I really enjoyed Alaska, and she actually came up and visited me up there. When I was up there, she came up for about a week and really enjoyed it too. So, and that kind of just led to then a theme of Alaska names. So we have Kodiak, who's the oldest. He'll be 13 here in a couple months. And then our second is Aurora, who you mentioned. Obviously the Northern Lights, she's named after that. And I guess I should mention Kodiak. That's, the Kodiak bears up there. That's the only place they're found is up there in Alaska on Kodiak Island. So that's where that came from. And then Sterling is our third. And that's named after the town of Sterling, Alaska, is where that one came from. And then Kala, which is the Kala lily.
Yeah, and then share the unique outdoor passions or lack thereof for each of your children.
So they all like being outside, playing outside. We've always tried to make it so they have somewhere to go and just be outside to play. And then as far as my interests go, with hunting and fishing and that sort of thing, they all enjoy different aspects of it. But it's different. Kodiak, he likes to go hunting, but it's more of he's not out there necessarily to try and kill something. I mean, that's, part of it, but he's more of the going out with dad and having the experience and getting to spend time together and have fun. Whereas Sterling, he enjoys that part, but it's more, he wants to go and, get an animal and, see animals, even if we don't kill one. It's just so different. Still hunting, but kind of different end goals, I guess, or focus maybe is a better way to put it.
Sure. How about the girls?
And the girls, they both, they more enjoy fishing. Kala's still kind of young. She still just kind of runs around and just has fun doing with whatever we're doing. But Aurora, she definitely, I think, enjoys fishing a little bit more because it's more hands-on and it's active. It's not so much sitting as hunting can sometimes be. And she likes to shoot guns, but it's more of I think she enjoys the fishing aspect of it more. But camping, that sort of thing, camping and hiking, all the kids enjoy doing that. Or, they're always excited when we go to do that sort of thing, or kayaking or boating, canoeing, any of that. They all get excited pretty well with that sort of thing.
So you and Hannah both have a passion for the outdoors, and yet I suspect there's some things that she enjoys outdoors that, at least initially, you were like, yeah, not really me. And yet somewhere along the way, you've learned to really appreciate that and find the enjoyment in it. And then vice versa. I'm sure there's things that excite you, would be your preferences for let's do this. And she's learned to enjoy that as well. So talk about that, how you as a couple have learned to appreciate each other's outdoor passions and perhaps in one way or another educated each other.
So I would say probably for her, what I learned from her, would be gardening. I never really did gardening growing up. I knew families that had gardens, and I know, she had one, a big one growing up that she helped out in. And so that's probably the thing that pulled from that, because I never, oh, it's cool, but I never really had an interest in it. But then when we finally got our first place up in Fredericksburg, a little townhouse, we, she wanted to get a couple of tomato plants and cucumbers plants, and so I was like, okay, we'll do that, and just started with a few things in the backyard. It was a tiny little space, room for a few plants. And then when we bought our place, it really kind of expanded, because I was like, well, that was enjoyable. It's nice to go, plant something and watch it grow, and then go out and pull some fresh tomatoes for a salad, or some fresh cucumbers or something like that. That was a nice self-sustaining sort of feeling. So when we moved down here, we put in some bigger garden, put some raised beds in, built a greenhouse, that sort of thing, to do a much bigger garden. And I really enjoy that now. That's
You've done both some microgreens and mushrooms.
so
Surely.
microgreens. Yep. So I got into that a little bit. Messing around with that still. That's pretty fun. You can do that pretty easily. The microgreens, you just grow that the way I do it. I think the standard way is just on trays, and pretty much you grow, just a little plant for a few days until they get to their first cotyledons, and then you pretty much harvest them as a garnish or an add into a salad. There's a couple hundred different, probably more than that, kinds that people use in all different reasons. But that's a lot of fun, because it's a quick turnaround. You can, get into it and then see the fruits of your labor really, within a week, really quick. And then the mushrooms, that's a fun thing that we both kind of, she had never done it before, but she's always, been interested in mushrooms, as far as, they're good to eat. That's a main thing, we do that. But also medicinally, the properties that they have, just consuming those, they can be good for you different ways. So I, this year, or I guess it was last year now, dropped a couple of trees, and then you let them lay for a little bit and dry out a little bit, and then actually ordered some mushroom spawn from a company, and then you put the little plugs with the mushroom mycelium on them into those, and then they culture the log. And I actually got a couple of mushrooms this year already. Wasn't expecting any till the spring, because usually you do it in the transition seasons, when it's going from hot to cold or cold to hot, kind of in those 60-degree temperature areas. But got a few this year, and that was really nice. Made a shiitake cream sauce to go over some fresh venison steaks that we got from behind the house there too. So that was fun. That was an interesting, never done that before, but a new venue of, takes a little work to set it up, but then you just kind of let them sit, and they take care of themselves for a while, and you just go out and harvest. So that was a nice, pretty cool.
Yeah, so I'm
new
getting
venture.
hungry here listening to
Yeah.
this. If we can get some fresh, all natural meat, as well as some wild vegetables. So, and then how about for Hannah? She learned something from you?
So we say, because we've known each other a long time, so we always have had kind of similar interest in things. But I think probably the thing that I might have had to talk her into is when we first moved down here. She's always like camping and fishing, but I told her, I was like, we should go camping and go up in the mountains and go hike some of these little trout streams that they have up there. And she was a little, I don't know if I want to do all that sort of thing, because it was some good hiking. There was some big rocks and a couple sketch areas and stuff like that where you're climbing around. But after we got done with the first day, I asked her, "Are you ready to go back again?" So yep, we went right back out the next day, hiked another stream, and that was right before she ended up getting pregnant with Kodiak. So then that kind of, I'm sure we would have done a little bit more of that. But we still make it up in the mountains now. We've made it a point to get up there. We were actually just in there a couple months ago in October, and made it up to a stream and did that again. So we try and do that. But that's one of the, I would say, maybe incorporating the two, camping and fishing and hiking in the, the little streams, maybe not so much mainstream, going to a pond or a reservoir, something like that.
Ben, what would you say are the lessons that you've both learned in terms of appreciating each other's interests and learning from each other?
If you don't have an interest in it, but your, significant other, whoever does, there's probably a reason for it. There's probably some way they're finding joy in it. Otherwise, they wouldn't be doing it in their free time. So I guess, just being open to new things in general would be the way to do it. And Um, if somebody, they like to do things outdoors a lot. If somebody's not used to doing that, I get, you're like, oh, I don't want to go outside. You get sunburned, you get bit by bugs, or, it could be a snake or something, or different things like that. But it's really, just another new learning experience.
You guys do a lot of family outings together. Highlight some of
Yeah.
those just very briefly.
So we do a lot of close to home trips, 2-3 hours. We try to go to the different state parks, national park stuff around here. There's a lot of them you go to and just do some camping, but probably the bigger ones that stand out more would be, we went up to Maine a few years ago. That's 4 years ago now. That was a fun trip though. We went up through New Hampshire, Vermont, and then finally over to Maine, up to Bar Harbor in that area. So that was a lot of fun. And that's not a short drive, so you end up spending a lot of time together in the car doing stuff, find ways to entertain the kids sometimes, and playing games, doing that sort of thing. So that's fun. And then a more recent one, we went down to Tybee Island in Georgia. That was a fun one. Camped down there at a campsite and really close to the beach, so we were able to. We actually rented a couple bikes and then rode those down in the morning. We go down to the beach and hang out, do that sort of thing. So those are probably the most recent. Those are probably the two biggest trips that were, outdoor related. So
What would you tell the parent that says, "Oh, it's just so much work. It's a lot of expense. It's a lot of planning, so on and so forth." Why bother to take the family outdoors?
it is a lot of work, and it takes a different, a little more preparation, because you need to, you don't want to show up at the campsite and have it be dinner time and not have anything to feed the kids or anything like that. So it does take a little more prep and stuff like that, but it's definitely more, um you get some more out of it, because instead of just going and showing up and turning on the TV and hanging out in the hotel room or something like that, you actually, help set up the tent, help set up camp, help get the fire going, some different things like that. That can be fun. But for the first time person, I would definitely recommend maybe doing a blended trip, one night in a hotel or something when you get there, especially if you get later in the evening, you don't want to, trying to set up in the dark, or when it's almost dark, that's never fun. So, you do a hotel at the first night, and then you have all day to kind of get your camp set up the next day, do a night or two of camping, and then head out. And depending on, how far it is, maybe, you do a hotel on the way there and then a hotel on the way back, just to kind of break it up and making it easier evening on the way in and the way out, because those are usually the little more hectic days if you're trying to break down camp and get out before dark and then drive all the way home, depending on where you're at. So,
Well, you really bring up a good point that there's so many ways you can do a trip. So you just need to do, what works for the whole family. Let's talk about risks a bit. I think that's another reason that people are adverse to doing outdoor as family, is they're afraid that somebody just might get hurt. What's your experience been, and what are your tips?
be vigilant, which is really, anywhere you go, go to the store, you're watching your kid, making sure where they're going, not running out in traffic and stuff. So it's really not different than what you have to do anyway when you're out and about with kids. And as far as the danger aspect, I mean, people, they'll scrape knees and, a bruise here and there, something like that. But we've never had, and all the different things we've done, we've never had to go to the emergency room, knock on wood, we haven't had anything major, where a little first aid kit, with some band-aids and some Neosporin and alcohol, little thing, can't patch up a little scrape or something like that. And then, we haven't experienced anything where you're like, oh man, I never want to go back outdoors again. You just kind of pay attention to what you're doing. And it definitely helps, maybe if you're going somewhere, like if you're going up in the Smokies, you might want to, do a little quick research, what kind of snakes are around, what kind of, is there poison ivy in the area, that sort of thing, to help mitigate. But a lot of places like that too, they already have pre-marked trails, and they have, if there's, bears in the area or something like that, there's usually signage and, significant signage like, hey, pay attention, there's bears, how to do your food and all that sort of thing. So
Sure.
there's nothing really where you just kind of wander out and you're, out by yourself without any sort of warning or anything like that, I guess. So
So for the family that can overcome their aversions to risk, which don't necessarily have to be significant, and like you say, you can plan to make sure that you minimize those risks. There's a real golden opportunity of taking the family out to the outdoors, and that's to have some conversations, some experiences that'll last a lifetime, that'll really transform the spiritual journey of everyone. Can you share, Ben, just a little bit about some of the conversations, the unique moments, those times where you've had with either Hannah or the children or both, that you've gone, wow, this is what it's really, this is the beauty of it.
Yeah, yeah. I know that, just walking around, we've had lots of conversations and stuff, and I was trying to pick out a certain, memory or conversation. I couldn't really think of one, when we're just walking around, but one that really did stand out to me, I remember, was Kala, our youngest, when we went down to Tybee Island. She was, maybe 3, I think is how old she was. And we had gone out to the beach one morning, and we were sitting there kind of right as the sun, had come up a little bit, but it was still right down on the horizon. And we were sitting there looking, and there was a whole pot of dolphins that came through, and she sat there and watched them for 15, 20 minutes. Everybody, oh, that was so great, it was cool, and everybody liked it. And then we left and went on with life. And then it's probably a year after that, maybe even a couple months ago, I don't know, significant time, and I was sitting there talking to her, and I forget what we were talking about, and all of a sudden she just looking, you remember that time we were on the beach in the morning and we were watching the dolphins? And she just got this huge smile on her face. You could see her just kind of remembering that. And that just really, that was one of the, it's 100% worth it, because even if they aren't, I think she was crying when we left the beach because she wanted to stay and look at the dolphins, so right in the moment, it's not always apparent, but down the road, it really does make an impact in a memory and something where, she, years later, I wouldn't have even thought of it, that she would remember, and she's, remembering it and bringing it up out of nowhere. So that was really kind of one of those things that hit home. Like, it does make a significant difference. It's not just for nothing. So.
Well, that's a good way to conclude this conversation, is that getting outdoors with your family is an investment that will last forever and will transform their lives. So, Ben, thanks for sharing today. I've been speaking with Ben and Hannah Cox, and their family regularly get out in the outdoors to just experience life and to live together. And I encourage all of our readers to do that as well, and to find out just how, as you do that, you can draw closer to each other and to God. Ben, thanks so much for your time today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.